I want to chat about narrative events. I think in the YouTube sphere, particularly in the old world sphere, and a lot of the non hobby related YouTube channels, and the more gaming element ones are largely focused on competitive play. Especially in the old world. In fact, I think a good portion of people that are doing stuff, it is very, very competitively focused, and I want to talk about narrative events. I want to talk about narrative play. I want to talk about why I think more people should be doing narrative play. And most importantly, I want to talk to you about how you can start playing narrative events and bringing more people into it, because I think there is a bigger opportunity to get people to play narrative games more so than there is for competitive play, and I'll kind of walk you through that as we go. So, what am I going to run through in this video? We're going to cover just what is Narrative Warhammer, what makes narrative play special, narrative events, and as I said, how to make your own narrative events. So first and foremost, what is Narrative Warhammer? What do we mean when we talk about Narrative Warhammer? I think it's given, like, a lot of people have to, do a lot of kind of what I would say are a lot of takes are made in kind of bad faith that the narrative play is, people think of it as just it's not about winning, and it's just about not caring about the rules so much and all of that, and I don't think that is the case at all. I think when you're playing kind of narrative games, you are playing games that are more that they're a structure. Yeah, as I've put on my kind of slide deck, they are a structured way of playing that prioritizes story and story continuity and shared world building over competitive parity. What does that mean? That means instead of just focusing on balance and the balance of your armies and trying to kind of figure out who is best with kind of two equally and well balanced armies on a symmetrical kind of, or symmetrical looking field, that seems to be kind of, from what I can see, the kind of primary purpose of competitive play. And I enjoy competitive play at times. I'm just not completely doing it all of the time. And I think Narrative Warhammer is much more about trying to kind of recreate battles that are like in the lore, for kind of reference, or you'll try and craft your own characters and everything like that. That might end up having a long running kind of story, where you kind of add and develop those characters over a series of games. So I think there are three pillars of narrative play. The first one is that continuity, where things carry over between different games. Secondly, I think there is context, and that is your different scenarios, your factions and table setups are chosen because they tell a larger story. And finally, I think the third kind of pillar of narrative play is about collaborating with other players to tell a larger collective story, right? So that's kind of overarchingly what narrative play. What does that kind of look like on a day-to-day basis? Well, that might look like, it might look like you're playing one of the scenarios from one of the arcane journals, right? Let me grab one straight up. So I've got my Wood Elf arcane journal here that I love. there are a number of, I'd say there's a whole kind of like section here, right, that I don't think gets played or won't get played by a lot of players because it doesn't kind of strictly meet a match where things are, quotes, balanced. You have additional kind of scenario rules to try and give it a bit of extra flavor, a bit of extra kind of spice. This is like you're recreating something that has happened in the lore, and in some instances, Games Workshop themselves might try and get your feedback to try and help craft their larger narrative, right? And see what happens in the larger story. So, where am I at? There we go. Come on. Cool. Yeah, so as I've kind of said, like... Oh, I should probably... there we go. There we go. So I think the kind of main difference from my side is in competitive formats, like the difference between narrative and competitive games. In competitive formats, winning and being kind of the best player of a particular faction is kind of the general aim, right? Armies aim to be balanced, and it's largely a test of player skill. I think Rob from the Honest Wargamer and Square Based puts it. There's a really great phrase that I've completely forgotten that he uses. It's skill expression. That's it. It's about skill expression and testing and testing your kind of skill expression. And I think the difference between that and narrative play is you're not the core aim of it isn't necessarily to win. You're still playing a game, so you still want to win. It's just not the primary purpose, as it were. The primary purpose is to kind of tell a larger kind of crafted story. Now, don't get me wrong, there is story in competitive play. There is, there is somewhat of a narrative in a competitive game. As the Play on Tabletop guys put it, dice do tell stories. If you're rolling in if you win something just by the kind of larger you win a close match because you've rolled dice and the dice have come up in your favor. That's like always a good fun kind of moment, and it's great to kind of tell in and of itself in a kind of thing about how you got really lucky in a particular way, and that has allowed you to kind of beat maybe your kind of skill expression and stuff like that. And I think with narrative, you're trying to like pull all of those bits together and use it to tell, as I say, that kind of larger interconnecting story where over the course of days, months, weeks, I've gone the wrong way, days, weeks, months, years, you might be having the same kind of general and you're going to like craft with a general that is a lord kind of character that is leading your army. You might kind of continuously write for them, and then they are all, their kind of thing is that they'll have like an untimely demise after five or six games or something like that, and they'll collapse and die, or they might carry a grudge against another player's character that will go on, and you can tweak and change scenarios or add extra kind of rulings and stuff like that to express what has happened in the story to a particular kind of character. And you'll need to like kind of go ahead and make sure you don't want to play an unbalanced game in a narrative session. You want to just try and allow the rules to kind of tell a story and craft a larger narrative in that context. Maybe I'm not doing the best kind of expressing it there, but I hope I'm getting kind of the point across. So what kind of makes narrative play special? What makes it special to me? I think for me, a lot of it is kind of the added creativity of playing narrative games. Like I've not played just the narrative old world. I've played a good bit of narrative Warhammer 40,000. I've played a number of narrative tournaments for Adeptus Titanicus and Legions Imperialis. And it's always fun having like different scenarios that are not necessarily balanced. They are interwoven kind of stories where what happens in the first session of the game impacts and affects what will happen in the second session, and so on and so forth. And we'll see that later on when I talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we've done later down the line. And as I said like a moment ago, the proposition of having a number of different people coming to collectively tell a story over multiple days, weeks, months, or even years is just a really, really fun kind of element to it. And that's kind of like, that's it for me. Like this, I find this a lot more fun than trying to work out like the kind of likelihoods of a certain number of units impacting and the amount of damage that they might do, and if you can trade up or trade down, or or whatever the kind of the terms are in competitive play. And I think it's for my speaking for myself, I feel like a lot of that has taken the fun out of Warhammer 40,000, just like the amount of it that is now just seeped through. And I think a lot of people are expressing this in about Warhammer 40,000 10th edition, where everything is an L-shaped piece of terrain or whatever it is, and how it feels like there is no flavor in that, because you're just constantly playing on these symmetrical boards and people are arguing over kind of the minor points, and you're not telling that kind of larger story. I think is not as fun. Like I find the prospect of like playing a bit more Warhammer 40,000 but in a narrative format like a much more interesting proposition than playing competitive. But because competitive and match play now has so like become a part of mainstream modern Warhammer 40,000, it's very difficult now to find people that will unwed themselves from playing match play Warhammer 40,000, because it's just become so standardized. And there's a little bit of a concern of mine that might end up happening in Warhammer the Old World. And as I've kind of already said, like if you look at Warhammer the Old World's YouTube, it is largely like kind of the space is largely filled now with people that, outside of people that are doing hobby, are largely doing competitive and meta-based commentary on Warhammer the Old World. And I think it's not particularly beginner-friendly. It can feel a little like, and I don't get me wrong, I think it can feel a little bit exclusionary, because the more you talk about these kind of things, the more you end up telling people that they need to buy certain units, not necessarily the things that they think are cool or the things that they like or whatnot. You'll end up having to buy these things just to remain relevant, and it's just not fun. Like with my wood elves, for example, right? Like I really want to like play Eternal Guard half the time, but because no one runs special features, right? Like in any of the competitive formats until recently, when I've started doing a few more narrative based games. There's been zero point in me playing my Eternal Guard because I can't use one of their abilities, which is about using special features and doing all of that sort of stuff. It's pretty crazy to me. So, and I don't want to like slam on competitive players, because I played competitive Warhammer. I do think there is a time and place for it. I I don't like that it has become the whole Warhammer. And I think we need a little bit of a pushback and just say, hey, let's do a bit more narrative. Let's do, let's kind of slow this kind of meta and narrative competitive train down a little bit. And I'm kind of like happy to stick my flag in the kind of place there and be that person, because if no one else does it, then someone's got to do it, I think. And as I said, I have no qualms or whatever with people that want to play competitive at all. I think trying to divide and split people like that is it's kind of a bit asinine. I think I just want to make sure that there's a space that is supported for people that can play narratively. I don't like the idea of people having a go at other people because they play Warhammer a little bit differently. I just want to make sure that the narrative space is supported, and that people have the opportunity to play narrative games. And some people might not know how to start, or how to pick up, and how do we do that? So I think I'm going to try and from my channel side, I'm going to try and give you the tools that you need to be able to do that. And a lot of it is just about having the confidence to go out and speak to people. So let's try and do that on the channel. So let's talk about kind of narrative events, because I think a lot of people don't necessarily have that want to play Warhammer, that are maybe in their late 20s or mid 30s, like myself. Life gets busy, so you might not be able to do kind of a weekly games night where you're kind of doing stuff. It might be that you are doing tournaments at the weekend, and the only thing that's available to you at the moment is a competitive 3-game event or something like that, and you'll go and play that because you want to play your game, but it's not necessarily your thing, but you'll go and play because it's what's available. And I think we need to start kind of carving out the space for narrative events. So what's a narrative event? What do I mean by narrative events? So I've already kind of mentioned the idea of it beforehand, where it's a narrative event, is kind of a day of scenarios that link together, often forming a larger campaign and a larger series of games that link into each other, and it's just really good fun. You should definitely try and if you see one come up, go and give it a go. It's very, very different to playing competitively. It's, I would say, a much more relaxed environment, because the edge is off of trying to be the best player at the tournament and everything else like that, and worrying about if you're going to go into a particular matchup that might be unfavorable to your particular army, because it's not as it's kind of not as about that. You're kind of just interested to see where the story goes and what happens in the larger kind of grand scheme of things, which is always good fun. You still want to win though, but it's not as bad if you lose, which I think is really good fun. So as an example, you might have your first scenario, you might have a particular mission to do, and I'm going to give you an example of all of this in a hot minute. You might have a mission inside of the larger kind of thing. So you want to win the scenario, but there might be bits that, there might be a little mission where you've got to claim an objective, or you've got to try and kill an enemy captain or something like that in order to score a secret thing. So a twist might happen in your next scenario. And if it doesn't work, you might not get that twist, or the opposing side might get an advantage or something like that. So you'll play scenario 2 with or without that advantage, or with or without that twist. And then if you end up having a third scenario, you could, in the second scenario, the outcome, so whether the good guys, if you're playing kind of a team event, the good guys win that particular one, or you just playing by yourself, you win, you might end up having scenario A happen. But if you lose, you'll play scenario 3B instead, which might be completely different, and you're playing a completely different game because of what has happened. And it's just, you're having that kind of story progression go. It's not like a competitive event where normally everyone plays the same mission in game 1, everyone plays the same kind of thing in game 2, and then everyone plays the same thing in game 3. You might have that in a narrative event, but it might be kind of a lot, different in different ways. You might, given what happens to you and what your army does, you might end up going down a different route. If you played, like an RTS game, and you come to like a branching scenario, I think, that's probably the best way to kind of describe it, where, depending on your choices and how you play your army will affect how you move through the day. As I say, so if you know what's coming up in the scenario pack, you might want to win, or maybe you actually want to try and lose the game, but not by much or something like that. And depending on the outcome, you might end up impacting your army's abilities throughout the rest of your larger campaign, which is just really cool and really good fun. And I love stuff like this. This is really my jam. So yeah, as I say, I want to do more of this for the channel and support people doing this as well. So where are we at? So I'm just going to give you the example that I have literally just run over Bad Moon Cafe in Borough, in central London, south London. I say I have run, like I cannot give enough thanks to Willem St John. He's one of the owners of Bad Moon Cafe, who's just been an incredible support in doing this. I've never TO'd before, or like event organised for an Old World event. He's done it multiple times. Like as the owner as well, he's like put up ticket sales and all of that. I've just written the scenarios and all of that, and we'll go through the scenarios and what happened. And I'll walk you through it. But it's just happened on Saturday, and it was really good fun. So yeah, as I said, it's the Siege of Marienburg that we did. We played a slow grow campaign that happened the previous 4 months, where we were like the slow grow was kind of situated around kind of northern Bretonnia and the Westerland, right? So like you can kind of just see where it would happen at the top of this slide here, where the of is. It's kind of happening all around there. And there were lots of like chaos raids. It wasn't like we weren't necessarily doing like Friedal the Chainmaker and all of that. It was just we'd come up with like someone else to give, to have an excuse for people playing chaos. That they were kind of attacking the northern parts of the old world. And over time, it turned out that there was a chaos sorcerer called Korzan, who was trying to unlock a sigil, and it ended up generating this giant spire from the center of the earth that collapsed after the good guys managed to, get their stuff together and stop the forces of chaos. But the spire that they created, as it collapsed, it like basically generated a bunch of like ore around the area that chaos dwarves came and helped like turn into like weapons and all of this stuff, and the chaos chaos champions began like huffing this ore and like kind of turning it into like magical cocaine basically, and it gave them more frenzy and all of this, that and the other, and they could use it to turn it into like giant siege weaponry and stuff like that. And then it became, over the course of the campaign, it looked like okay, they're turning onto Marienburg, and they want to try and like siege and take over Marienburg. And this is after that like kind of 4-month journey. We did the end of the slow grow kind of narrative event, which is what happened the weekend just gone, and it was really, really good fun. We intended for it to be a 3-game event, largely because we just copied we just kind of copied the format of typical competitive tournaments. That's what that's what we kind of knew and the format that we knew. But we just ended up doing a 2-game on the day because we needed like more time in the day, and we ended up eating into the kind of the third session's time. So we called it short there. So what were the 3 scenarios? So first up, we had scenario 1, which was surprise attack. This is actually a scenario that's in the core book, in the core rulebook that you can find, and most people, I would imagine, have not played this. Because, a lot of the time people are just going straight for the match, play kind of ones and all of this, that, and the other. They give you kind of a suggested kind of kind of campaign structure that you can use for this. But yeah, I just took the first mission because I was kind of reading it and I was just like, this would be perfect. In the run up to the siege itself, which was going to be the second scenario, the good guys are trying to to get everyone into, that's in the surrounding settlements. They're trying to get all of them into Marienburg to defend them and keep them against the forces of chaos that are sieging. And at the same time, the forces of chaos are like ransacking all of these villages for supply. So this kind of scenario was, these armies have just like kind of appeared together at the same time, and it's kind of going to be a crazy little clash. So instead of the normal battle lines where you have like 2 kind of drawn sides, what we had here was you've got 6 zones. Each side places a unit into one of the 6 zones, and then their general gets placed as well. Everyone else was held in reserve, but they can come on turn 1. And they follow like kind of the normal rules for ambushing, except they don't have to roll unless they're an ambusher. At the same time, we also had 3 objectives that were placed around the board, and these objectives helped in the second round, which I'll get to in a minute. We also had a secret mission for people, which was if they managed to kill a particular character on their boards, they would gain the opportunity to find out information about what was going to happen in the siege of Marienburg. So, like, if the forces of chaos managed to kill particular characters, they found out which sections of the wall were weaker than the others in order to like kind of help them in the sieging section themselves, which was really good fun. So yeah, we were also keeping a tally of kill points at the same time, because whilst we're trying to have like a broader like decision on where the story goes, we're also still rewarding like players who manage to like do who are like really good at like being generals for their army and stuff like that as well. So there's also that kind of element of being able to reward skill expression and mastery and games mastery and stuff like that as well. So if you're you can kind of, if you can master the session as well, you'd get additional reward, which is really good fun. But there's a few bits going on there. So we ended up taking these games. The games kind of took a little bit longer, and that was kind of a bit of a reflection. The whole session was a bit of an experiment, but we had really good fun. Like, you can see a couple of photos here. So photo on the right was I'm going to completely forget, James and Jamie, I believe. James playing the Chaos Dwarfs, who ended up winning the coolest army prize as well, versus Jamie, who was playing Empire. And then on the left was Warren and Adam playing a gorgeous the Chaos Demons, played by Warren, one of my favorites one of my favorite armies from this whole kind of thing has been a like a 1990s Chaos Demons army that is like painted in like traditional Warhammer colors. So it's the goblin green grip bases and everything like that, as well as Adam's fantastic Tomb King's army as well, which is just a beautiful paint job across the entire thing. Most of the good guys managed to kind of win. Like the defenders of Marienburg managed to win and gain loads of the supply tokens. So that led to during the siege, the defenders had loads and loads of trebuchet shots coming from inside the city, defending Minas Tirith style, where you've got trebuchets like a firing shots at the sieges. So we've got a few different photos there. Instead of just having like a big long wall, we had a scenario where we had like kind of gatehouses, and the idea is that each of these, like you can see here, each of these kind of front segments had a like kind of hit and wound, like toughness and wound value, as well as a 5-up armor save, and the walls could be destroyed if, however, you hit them with a sword or like a non-hammer instrument. You would blunt your weapon for the remainder of the event. Which was, so you'd lose any AP value and have the opportunity to hurt yourself, just as a little bit of extra narrative flair. So, as I mentioned, like the supply that you were given if you were the defenders, you get a load of trebuchet shots, which were just basically Bretonnian trebuchets, and they were fired at the start of turn, and you could fire a D6 number of shots out of your supply until you ran out. So we figured out how many shots. It was basically like a D6 number of Bretonnian shots times the number of supply tokens that we picked up, and the Chaos side had Death Shrieker rockets that were like basically 1 pip stronger than the walls, so they could fire them into the walls and try and bring the walls down. All they have to do then is get a regular infantry unit into the area with the gatehouse. Like they couldn't get it in. Like there's no way that the good guys can get in until the evil guys can get in until one of the walls is brought down. As soon as the walls is brought down, all Chaos need to do is get a regular infantry unit literally in the zone, and that's it. They win. Even if it's like turn 1, they would win that scenario and get into Marienburg. That was what was going on. Each of the Death Shrieker shots, I think, did a D6 number of wounds if it hit. If you rolled a natural 6 to wound, you did an extra D3 wounds as well. If you didn't want to fire at the walls, you like basically do a blast marker sort of thing. So you could still, like, if you didn't want to bother with that and you just wanted to try and hit enemy defenders and stuff like that, you could just like kind of fire it as a regular stone thrower and stuff. People really liked the simplicity of this sort of siege mechanic, because you are just literally like rolling dice and you're trying to destroy the thing. Unfortunately for the attackers, is a lot of them got caught off guard by the supply tokens in round 1. So all of the supply tokens were basically, bar like maybe 1 or 2, were with the defenders. So the defenders had loads and loads of Bretonnian trebuchet shots, and the attackers had very few of the attack of the Death Shrieker rockets to hit into the walls of Marienburg. So it was very much advantage defenders. In the end, only one of the Chaos teams managed to get into Marienburg. But as I kind of said, the games went on like a little bit longer than we anticipated. So we didn't end up finishing the second round until I think it was like 5:30. And we'd started at 10. And by the time it was 5:30, I think we were supposed to be halfway through game 3. So we did end up calling it quits on at that point, and I think everyone was kind of okay with that. No one was grumbling. Everyone kind of got that. I think there were a few people that would have like kind of carried on, but most people I think were pretty like, I'm done. 2 games in one day is kind of a lot. I'll share out the scenario pack in chat as well, so people can go and have a look through. If they want to run it, they're more than welcome to. But yeah, the final one was basically kind of a my attempt to kind of have a go at doing the kind of capture the city run from the Total War Warhammer games. So if you played one of those and you've broken into a city, you have to try and like capture and put a banner on definitely from Total War Warhammer 3 at least, I know. It might have been a bit different in maybe the first 2, but I can't remember. You need to like basically get a battle standards or like raise your banner on the top of on top of the city. So the way that I'd done it was you have basically kind of a long gauntlet across the table. So you're using a regular table, and the defenders have a hill, and the attackers need to get their battle standard bearer on the hill. All of their regular infantry can basically regen, and all of the attackers' forces become skirmish formation as they're like going nuts into the city, and the defenders have you have access to like arrow shots and stuff like that, extra arrow shots to try and shoot and stop the attackers. And all of that, but on the hill itself, the hill becomes like a defended thing. So anyone attacking the hill is disordered, and what's the other one that basically removes your initiative bonus. But yeah, all Chaos need to do is get a battle standard bearer on the hill, and across all of the tables, they only need to get one battle standard bearer on the hill to claim the city and win the event for Chaos. But we didn't get there in the end, and as I said, only one Chaos player managed to get through it. It was Warren with the really, really cool Chaos Demon army. But yeah, as I said, due to time constraints, we just didn't manage to get through it. But it was a really good fun day. This was all of the folks that played it, bar a couple of people that didn't want to get photos. We had, throughout like the course of the slow grow, almost 50 people that signed up. And there was a lot of interest originally in the narrative event itself. But it turned out like a load of people weren't able to make it because it was Bonfire Night weekend. So loads of people had like kind of family gatherings and stuff to go to. So we just really screwed up on the date, which really sucked. But Toby here, I have never seen someone so happy, when they won winning an event. He was just so shocked and surprised. Like he managed to like win both of his games as Bretonnians. I think he was just playing like an errantry crusade army. Wasn't expecting to win anything and came away as best general for goods. So had a great time. James there with his Chaos Dwarves managed to win coolest army. I should try and get a photo of his Chaos Dwarfs. But yeah, it was wicked. You can see them on my Discord channel actually. If you want to join the Discord, link is in the description. I know James has posted his Chaos Dwarfs in there as well. So yeah, that was the Siege of Marienburg event. Definitely want to have another go at doing. I want to do more events, narrative events, and write new narrative events. I think reflections after the fact. I think 2 games in one day. At first, like I think just because you kind of compare it to like competitive tournaments, people kind of think that three, there should be a minimum of 3 games. That's how I felt. And then I kind of came away and I was just like, why do we do 3 games in a day? It's exhausting. I come away like feeling I end up feeling like a little bit kind of crazy after 3 games. I feel so drained, and 2 games was kind of fine. I think more time to play each scenario was good. We could have maybe even upped the points value of each army as well. Maybe go up to like 3,000 points for the games to give people a bit more to kind of play with. I don't know. Like maybe we'll see. And the other thing that we didn't do as well, which maybe would have like sped stuff up, was a bit of a clearer run through of each event, but yeah, of each scenario before it happened. But otherwise, people had a really, really good time. It was a completely kind of like different event for Old Worlds that I don't think anyone else had kind of done or played. So yeah, as I said, kind of leading up to the event, and I think this is really, really kind of important if you want to have a go at creating a narrative event yourself, is you need to kind of build up a community around it, actually. And we'd managed to do that. Big thanks to Will once again, was having this 4-month-long slow grow campaigns. We started at 750 points and worked people up to 2,000 points. Pretty much every evening was a sellout evening, which kind of like no one was really expecting for Old World. Like I remember the faces of Will and a couple of the other folks that ran Bad Moon. I say that run Bad Moon, and they were just like kind of blown away by the interest and turnout for a narrative slow grow thing in central London, when so far it had just been like competitive stuff. So I'm just incredibly happy that there is the interest there for it. And if you're in a town and you want to play some more Old Worlds, let me save that for how to get kind of narrative events going. But yeah, so just how we did it, as I said, we got 48 signups. I'm pretty sure that was the number. It's super popular, like really, really popular for an Old Worlds thing. We had I'll share the kind of scenario bits as well, where we had a larger kind of overarching story that I kind of went through earlier with like Corzan and then the Chaos Dwarfs and everything like that. But it was more there just to kind of give kind of a loose kind of thing. You didn't need to be super engaged with the narrative, because we had a bunch of people that were beginners and that were interested in trying Old World. And all we did was just every other Thursday for 4 months. So basically we had people knew it in the calendar that it was coming up, and we gave that kind of regular routine. Which was really good, and we just changed the scenario each time. So we just changed the layout and stuff like that, so people got used to their armies, and built up to 2,000 over the course of 4 months. It was really good fun. We kept it no pressure as well. We're not super worried about like people winning and all of that. You're there to learn, and you're there just to have a good time and make friends, which is always really good fun. So how to kind of make your own narrative events, because I think this is one of the kind of questions that people have. Like, you need to like find a friendly local gaming store that is interested in running a games night. And I'm sure like if you've got one in your area and you're happy to kind of lead on it and help like kind of build it, then I think most friendly local gaming stores will happily kind of like help set one up, because it's good for them. Ultimately, they want people coming into their nights. So if you can get a night once a fortnight maybe, you know, once a week or something like that, that is kind of your club night, or like your specific old world night, or, you know, if you're watching this and you're the Narrative 40k fan or something like that, and you just want to make it Narrative 40k night, and you just make it super cash, super easy, and just have like, and all you're doing is just writing a little bit of story and stuff like that, and a little bit of flavor just to get people interested, and have a bit of a jibe at each other for playing a particular army and stuff like that. Great, love it, people love it. You do need to be a bit of a badger about it. I was with Will. I think I was badgering him for about six months, so we got there eventually, but I know just that, you know, they're busy, you know, a lot of the time. If you've got a good friendly local gaming store, they'll have stuff on, so you want to kind of like, they'll have like kind of other events going, and all of this, that, and the other. So yeah, you've got to just like kind of keep at it until it's set up, and then once it's set up, you've got to be the lead on it. You know, someone, if you want these things to exist, you know, you've got to Fields of Dream it. If you build it, they will come. Like, so just go and make it and put it up. Thank you, Rad von Carstang. Be a badger is 100% true. If you want to do, there's a good chance others will too, but sometimes it takes one person to wrangle everyone into action. Absolutely. The other thing is as well, is if you see someone else wants to do something, go and be the second person. Go and be that second person that helps them get it off the ground. It's, you know, it always really, really helps getting someone to having someone that will jump on board and help you go, or you can help them go. Sorry, be that person. If it's the first thing that you're doing, keep it light, but as I said, keep it regular. And if the more you do it, the more kind of stuff builds up, the more people are gonna like want to come back. As long as you're keeping it light, you're keeping it friendly. Don't, if you're the person doing it and you're the person with experience, don't win games. Like, it's the biggest thing. Like, go in and lose games. Like, fail a few rolls intentionally and stuff like that, because people are going to come back if if they win. So, don't try and win games all of the time. When you get to kind of a particular point, and if you're towards the end of the slow grow and stuff like that, it's fine. But in those first few games, and when you're playing against new people and they're trying to learn the rules or something, let them win, is the best way to do it. We had 8 tables, because we did most of the slow grow in the newer Bad Moon Cafe up in Holloway Road. We had 8 tables on a regular on a Thursday night from 6 till 10. And for the first 4 sessions, each table was a double. So we had 4 players on each table. So what's that? We had 32 people. Yeah, 32 people, I want to say, each Thursday. And then we had like another 16 people that were interested in joining. That's like, that was kind of unheard of numbers, and people were coming back. Like, the tickets were selling out for that event, like within minutes of them going online. It was like seriously that popular for Old World Narrative. Definitely experiment. Don't kind of go too crazy with the experiment, and just experiment a little bit and tinker. Don't do wholesale sweeping changes to stuff. Just maybe take when I'm saying experiment, I'm talking about like kind of the scenarios and stuff like that. Adapt and change some of the core scenarios in the book and add a little twist here. Maybe everyone has hatred, or like maybe one side has hatred and the other side has frenzy or something like that, because there's something in the water. And just write something to give it a bit of flavor and allow people to kind of play around with the different rule sets and stuff like that. And just to keep just to make it feel really special, end that series with a big bang. do something like a narrative event. And then once you've kind of got that community in place, you'll be able to repeat and go again. And that's exactly what we're doing with Slow Grow Old World. We're going to start a new one up in January, and I'm going to keep people on here up to speed with what's going on. And what I'm thinking is maybe we can make Slow Grow a larger international, maybe narrative Slow Grow. Maybe I'm just being a little bit cocky and a bit too big for my boots there, but I think if there's more people that are interested in playing narrative games, we could maybe have like kind of a larger collaborative kind of thing, and we can kind of do that through the channel. If people are up for that and people think it's kind of an interesting idea, then let me know. Join the Discord, let me know in the chat and whatnot. That would be cool. I think that's the end of my photo in the slides. Yeah, it is. Fantastic. That's kind of my pointers on narrative events, and I really do think you should give them a go. And if there's none around you, go and set them up. Like, your local gaming store will I think most of the time will, like, they will always want people to come in and get tables going. So go and get stuff set up. Go and do it. I'm looking at you right there in the camera. Go and do it.